So the reason for the the open burn ban is to ensure that the resources for the London Fire Department are directed appropriately. It's also to assist with the social distancing parameters that have put in place by our government and the City of London during the state of emergency.
Well, fire administration, the fire chief made this decision to help frontline firefighters. A lot of professional firefighters come to work 24/7 to do our job and our duty. And part of it before the pandemic was to respond to these non-essential calls. So basically, people complaining about nuisance fires that may or may not be in contravention to the bylaw. So these can take up quite a bit of time for a frontline crew. The fire trucks are positioned around the city for a 4 or less minute response time. So when a frontline fire truck is tied up on a non-essential call, like dealing with a nuisance open burn because somebody complained for various reasons, it takes us away from other calls that are possibly emergent. For instance, medical calls. And obviously we're seeing uh, those types of calls increase right now, or other emergencies that we should be paying attention to. So she made the decision, the fire chief with fire administration, the corporation, to put a temporary ban on it while the pandemic's ongoing. People, I get it. Families, it's everything's being very restrictive right now. You're trying to stay home as possible. You have a backyard. You want to take your family out and have, you know, roast marshmallows and make s'mores. I was planning on doing it with my own son, and now we're not going to be able to do that. I get it. People want to do that. But this is for the betterment of the community, like the chief stated, to limit exposure to people that don't live under your household, limit gatherings, limit the exposure of firefighters, and leave the firefighters available to respond to emergent calls and not be tied up. With this ban, though, when we are called out to these calls, what the chief has decided is some of the paperwork that goes along with it is not going to be filled out. Basically, it'd just be an order to extinguish and one simple form filled out, the fire put out, and the crew leaves, while the crew still stays code 1, which is mean available for emergent response, which is very important. So the call duration when it's called will be shorter. However, from the fire chief's direction, you kind of get one. And if we get called back again, and there's an order to distinguish before it, within the bylaw, and I'm sure Chief Hepdtich will comment on this, you can be fined.
Mhm.
We do not want to be tied up with these calls right now. We want to be available for emergent calls for that person that is in medical distress. We do not want to be dealing with an open burn right now when other people, especially during this pandemic, need our help. And we're urging the public to just listen. It's hopefully a short duration. Hopefully we get through this. It's not indefinite, it's temporary, but please allow us to do our jobs and stay available to those that really need us.
And further to what Jason said, again, it is a temporary ban, and it is to limit the exposure to the public from them doing social gatherings around an open burn or a campfire, essentially. And expanding on the fines, there could be penalties issued to those people who decide to not comply with the open burn ban. So it's not that we want to do anything like that, but those parameters are in place, and it is possible for someone to be fined for that if they continue to open burn. There are different types of different levels of fine depending on what it is. If you've been warned already, if there is an open burn and you've had your warning already, you could be ticketed anywhere from $200 to $600. I think the people of London just need to be conscientious of what they're doing, and like we said already, this is a temporary thing. We're going to come through this if we all work together, and the people within their own neighborhoods need to be conscientious as well. Of maybe there's someone who's dealing with COVID symptoms who has trouble breathing, and perhaps the creation of nuisance could have caused them further issues while they deal with this. So it's being considerate of our community at large and taking care of each other as well.
And I'd like to just add that, to reiterate the chief's comments, this is just temporary. It's not forever. We understand that it's taking away from possible family time of people in the backyard in a very difficult time. But please look past yourself at the community, like the chief said. This is about all of us working together to get through this time. The London professional firefighters are, like I said, doing their duty, responding to calls 24/7. All the trucks are staffed. We're going to all the calls. We're just trying to minimize the non-emergent calls. The fire chief's trying to minimize the non-emergent calls to make sure that we're available for the emergencies where people really need us, and to lessen the exposure, the self-distancing that's being talked about. So we're not going to these calls that really we shouldn't be going to right now. But my members are doing their job day in, day out in a very different world. And it's a pandemic that it's very different right now. So please let us do our jobs. Thank you very much for having us on.